Hello guys and welcome to my new video. I haven't done this in a while because we basically haven't killed a new boss in quite some time, but right now we have killed Elisande on mythic difficulty in the last couple of days, so I decided to do a little healing guide, a little more focused towards Resto Druids, but I think it should apply to anyone who's actually trying to kill this boss from a healing perspective. I won't be covering a lot of the other abilities or mechanics that are not required for healers. I'm basically just looking from a healer perspective, so if you want to have a general idea of how the fight works, you probably shouldn't get all the tips from this video. But let's get on to it. So the first things that I should cover is, like I said, more druid specific, some of the druid talents that I've used for this fight. There is a cookie builder build that's available, so scenario word is mandatory, it's always used for this. Displacer beast, I choose guardian affinity here because of how rings actually work. The arcanetic rings, I use guardian affinity because you can actually survive one tick of rings. With guardian affinity, it helps you with that. If you have Preda's legendary, it also helps you survive this damage, so it's not an instant kill if you do make a little mistake, which is basically the whole fight. Typhoon cultivation seems to be pretty mandatory. Then the tier 90 talents can change a lot on this fight. You can use spring blossoms. Now you probably won't be able to utilize spring blossoms for 100% of the time because there is patches of movement where you either have to choose between wasting mana and placing a fluorescence before it expired, or just leaving it there. Because this is a 7+ minute fight, mana can be a big issue. Some people use healing, some people use mana trinkets here. I end up using late torrent potion and the mana did not seem to be a problem, but you are required to have a big deeps here. So with spring blossoms you can actually go germination as well. Some people choose germination, although I don't really see why people would use germination, considering it probably will waste more mana. And the only specific part where you actually require to heal singular targets is when people are soaking bombs, and those people most likely will have some personal cooldowns. With germination is not really required, but people do use germination, and inner peace is actually perfectly viable because it's such a long fight. You can get 3 to 4 tranks in this fight. You just need to make sure that your raid leader agrees with you using tranquility first, and then therefore using it on cooldown, because otherwise if you don't use it on cooldown, inner peace is wasted, and then flourish is kind of a mandatory spec. So let's just go into the fight itself. It consists of 3 phases. The biggest difference here from a healer perspective, of DPS perspective, even tank perspective, is that arcanetic rings, now there is actually 2 rings spawn. So basically once you dodge the first rings, you dodge the left or right based on what your raid leader says, and then you have to expect another rings coming towards you. So this is actually the biggest mechanic here. As a Resto Druid, what you can do is actually perfect movement / healing, because the raid will be taking damage and you're best at movement. So if you can, try to optimize your rejuvenation placement during the movement of these arcanetic rings, but make sure you don't die, because this is the #1 reason why guilds don't kill it, because there's always one or two people who get ticks and die. That is the #1 mechanic here that basically will cause wipes. This is the phase 1. You can actually see me that I use tranquility at the very start. If you look at the video, this is all going to depend on your raid leader and when you're assigned to use tranquility. Right, I use innervate at the very start also, because the very start, literally 5 seconds into the fight, there's a lot of damage where you can actually blow some of your cooldowns, and you can actually hold up the whole raid and use Essence of Ganir and Flourish, because that's a big incoming burst. Then you actually will have to dodge few of the rings. You'll go into phase 2. Phase 2 is very similar. You still have to dodge the rings, but in this time you will have to deal with the Sulfuric beams, which basically will target you, and you target you or other raid members, and you either have to, if you get them, you either stand still, and if you don't get them, you try to move away. I actually use my tranquility here for the second time. Make sure you always get the cooldown reductions with the pink beams or pink circles. You can step into them to get cooldown reduction. Good tip to do is that sometimes it's not going to refresh the pink beam buff you actually need to step into it again, but you need to make sure that the buff is actually expired on you. If there's 5 seconds left on it or anything like that, you can't refresh it. A good tip is to actually go into the slow beam, into the slow circle, and then go to the fast one and refresh your buff. This will reduce your cooldowns and you'll be able to use tranquility and innervate more, therefore saving much mana, which is going to be very needed in this. So phase 2 and phase 1 are the hardest parts. You should blow all your cooldowns in both those phases. It's probably most of the mana is going to go there. It is not uncommon to have around 1 million healing throughout those 2 phases, depending on how many healers you have, and it's not uncommon to actually only have about 10% mana or 20% mana going into phase 3. So phase 3 is not a lot of healing. It's depending on how you're going to deal with conflictive bursts. So there's going to be 3 people in a party targeted with this debuff. 2 of those people should go to slow or fast, and one of the persons should go to the opposite buff that they have. So this will reduce, or this will make sure that because when the debuff expires, it will cause AoE damage. This will make sure that all of those debuffs are not expired at the same time and basically blows up your raid. A good tip here to do is that, especially for Druid or anyone who has personal cooldowns, if you have the debuff, we're actually using a specific recorder which tells you to get fast or slow. Once you get fast or slow, make sure you run away from the raid, because the further you are from the raid, the less damage they will take. And basically, right before it expires, use your personal cooldowns: Bear, Iron Bark, Barskin, things like that, and you will be able to survive. It deals about 2.5 to 3 million damage, I can't remember exactly, but you should be able to survive by using this cooldown. And this will actually reduce, and if you're really far from the raid with this debuff, you won't affect the raid at all, almost. This is the main killer in phase 3. Besides that, there's not going to be a lot of damage at all. I should mention that in phase 1 and phase 2, you get things called spanning singularities, which is also important to deal with. It's basically during the phase, we actually use a specific record as well. You basically make sure you move to the sides of the raid, and a circle is going to spawn on you or any of the members, and you have to make sure that circle does not spawn in any of the movement middle, because the middle is very movement heavy for your raid, because you have to dodge the rings. And if you spawn this spanning singularity, basically black hole on the ground, this will affect your movement a lot. So you get this recorder, you try to make sure to stay out of the middle as much as possible. With this recorder, it should be much helpful, included in the description. You should really use it if you want to help it. If there is an accident and someone has a black hole in the middle, you can't soak it. A paladin can use bubble and stand on it and soak it. Besides that, like I said, first 2 phases is where the healing happens. The number 1 reason why people wipe on this is the kinetic rings. There's always 1 or 2 people who die from this. If you perfect this, the main advice I can give you for Resto Druid, if you can properly heal, rejuvenate, wild growth during the movement, and not die from the rings, you'll be an amazing healer for this fight. You'll help out your raid a lot, because movement is the best thing for Resto Druid. Once you get familiar with the kinetic rings, it should be a piece of cake. And good luck on your kill, and thank you for watching this video, guys.